This is Mrs. Windenberg, the helpful art teacher. Today we are doing a freehand observational drawing of some pearls and gems so we can practice our value studies, our shading. As you can see, I'm drawing the entire thing freehand. Drawing freehand from life is a very valued skill to art schools. So if you submit items in your portfolio that are drawn completely from life and without a ruler or compass, it's a way of showing off your observational skills. So in this case, what I'm doing with the gem is I'm looking carefully at the light and shadow, and I'm filling each facet with a different value from light to dark. Now notice I'm not pressing hard when I make my darker values. What I'm doing is I'm adding multiple layers. The other thing is I want you to look at the direction I'm coloring in. A gem is made out of flat facets, so I'm using straight lines when I shade, and when I get to the pearl, I'm only using curved lines. So at no point will you see me shading back and forth. I'm shading a round object, so I pretend I am drawing on an actual round object. When I smear the pencil lines, I smear them from the edge to the middle, also using a curved motion with my finger. At no point do I ever go back and forth. I always have a curved motion. I'm trying to establish highlights, midtones, and shadows. It is very, very common for students to just color an entire area gray and say, okay, I shaded it in. That is not shading. In order for it to qualify as shading, you have to have a darker tone, a medium tone, and a almost white highlight, which you create with an eraser. Notice at no point am I pressing hard. Instead, I am putting multiple layers to get the darker values. Later on, we'll be introducing shading pencils so you can get truly dark values. But for this particular exercise, you're just going to be using an HB, or otherwise known as a number 2 pencil, which is the typical pencil that you use in school. And you're going to be learning how to create darker shadows simply by adding layer after layer of pencil until it gets darker. So you just have to look carefully at the facets of the gem and figure out the highlights, midtones, and shadows. The other thing about these gems is they're geometric, which means that they're going to be balanced. Whatever design is on one side is on the other side. So try and look at the underlying design that creates the facets of the gem. For instance, this round gem that I'm working on now is actually created from multiple squares. So all I did was I did the first square and then I tilted the second square to get that star pattern, and it's symmetrical on both sides. The other thing is, even though it's a round gem, you're going to see that later on I'm going to square off all the sides so that they're faceted as well. So again, each facet has its own value. You don't press hard on the actual lines. The way you distinguish the different shapes is that no two shapes next to each other are the same darkness or lightness. Some are lighter, some are darker, depending on where the light's hitting them. Notice how, because the top surface of the gem is flat, I am shading using straight lines. I'm using the side of my pencil so I get a soft color. And at no point am I pressing hard. If you press too hard, the line that you create is going to indent into the paper, and you won't be able to smear it or shade it or blend it, because it'll actually create a dent in the paper. You also won't be able to erase it because the dents will show. So drawing lightly and adding multiple layers is a valuable skill. This entire drawing from start to finish took me exactly 37 minutes. I've speeded it up so that the entire demo is 5 minutes. And again, I'm just going facet by facet, creating darker and lighter values, looking at where the highlights are, looking where the midtones are, looking where the shadows are. And every side is going to be using straight lines, but they're going to be going in different directions. The basic idea is to pretend you're drawing on the actual three-dimensional form and to shade in that direction. This is Rachel Windenberg, the Helpful Art Teacher, with another drawing tutorial.